Um, yeah, not sure if you're getting uh, baked beans burnt out. I don't know. But I just wanted to address a few things. I've seen some kind of wild videos the last few days. Some actually, being very legit and just being analytical, and some just having no idea even what they're talking about. Talking about beans as tokens and confusing uh, baked beans with the BCT token, and how the BCT token is like integrated into this thing, and that's how like baked beans is siphoning off people's money. It's weird stuff that they don't have any clue what they're talking about. Um, but then there's others that I've dug into the code over this weekend and really kind of looked at the um, formulas and stuff, and a lot of those are actually very correct. Um, I think there's been a lot of hype and things said. First, let me get this out of the way. I love the Baked Beans team. They've built a really good community over there on their Telegram group. There's some things I think they could be a little more upfront with, and I don't know if just a dev said, here's you know basically forked from BNB Miner and then just went over to, these guys hired them, said, hey, do a fork of this. And it was like, yeah, here it is. Here's this cool, crazy, complex thing that nobody will ever figure out. And that there's these anti-whale features and junk like that. And yeah, I'm just going to be open and honest with you guys. I fell for a lot of that stuff, and I didn't really work out all the formulas. I was just looking for backdoors. I was looking for any ways that this thing can scam people, things like that. And there's two things. First, there is not really an anti-whale feature. You're not going to be punished as much as they say you will if you withdraw too much. And I also want to follow that up with, you still don't want to withdraw too much, because I'll tell you why, and I'll show you why. It's not for the reason you think. So basically, I'm going to say these YouTube video guys that say, take your profits as it goes up, I think they're right, but they're also wrong. And the baked bean guys, I'm also going to say they're right, but they're also wrong. There's kind of a compromise between the two. A lot of people get very tribal, and want to be on one side or the other. As an investor, and as somebody that wants this thing to last a long time, I am not. I don't want to take sides. I want to look at the facts behind things and make decisions that make me money over a long period of time. And I think citing on the baked bean side, there's a lot of people that really jump into the bandwagon of compound this thing forever and take profits in the distant future. And then there's the other side where they're saying, hey, the algorithm is not working like they say it is, so just take all your profit now and keep taking. So there's a big gap between the two. There's also everybody in the middle that's like either on the fence or not even aware of these things going on, that are following the 6-to-1. And I think the way this thing sustains itself is you pull the people from those opposite sides and show them that it's not in their best interest to do what they're doing on those opposite ends, and bring them into the middle, and really build a community around building and sustaining this thing, instead of either going overboard with the compounding, where this is still considered high risk, where a month or two later, if those guys on the other end are taking too much profit, that it destroys any possible returns for them. So I mean, it's really about bringing everybody into doing what's right for the community and doing what's right for people's investments. And I want to explain all this to you. First, I want to talk about, it's going to be kind of crazy because I want to talk about Vineyard. Vineyard, is one of the first ones on Matic, which is just a basic direct fork. Let me pull up the code for that. Dump it over here. So I have Vineyard on the left, baked beans on the right here, and you can see the only thing they changed is the contract name. They changed the dev fee to 16%, and they say half of that's going to go into some insurance pool. I don't know. They should have just dumped in the contract. There's no reason why they shouldn't have. They should have just, yeah. Anyway, and then they added one line of code here for a max investment amount of 300 Matic, which is kind of insanely low. And the other only change in here is they have some messaging if you try to go over that limit, even though they mislabeled it of 800 Matic. Bizarre, but okay. So other than that, all the code, all the math behind it, everything is identical. There's no differences. The market eggs, everything is exactly the same. And why I bring up Vineyard is they actually paid for an audit. They had Hayes Crypto look over it, which is kind of, I don't know, kind of torn on it. But hey, Hayes actually did pretty decent on this because they detailed all the algorithms for you. I mean, you can see everything. And let me talk about that first. You know, Vineyard, that fee is insanely crazy. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, again, they say that half that's going to go into an insurance pool, but it's all going into the same wallet. So, I mean, honestly, the devs could just yank that. The investment plan, they just talk about things that are set up. It's interesting that they actually did the calculation, and the interest rate of that date was 5.96, which is about 6%, which is kind of what I expect for one of these to do, is the 6% per day. Yeah, they just talk about that. Basically, you know, if somebody puts in 300, you'll receive over 20,000 miners, and they will produce this many eggs a day. And then those many eggs will be like 19 Matic a day, and you can keep compounding, which that's what happens. And what the things that produce are your eggs. The eggs are what determines your profit, and there's a market eggs thing, and that ratio between the market eggs, how much you have deposited, and the contract balance, all those things play into how many eggs you're going to earn. And it's not, you know, if you stop compounding, if you withdraw too much, it does change this ratio, but not to the point where it's going to like wipe out all your returns. The contract balance does play a role, and these market eggs continue to go up. So if your contract balance drops and your market eggs continue to go up because you're either withdrawing, or those market eggs go up if you compound or deposit as well. So that's one thing to remember, is it's not just based off of how many times you compound. The contract balance has a say in it, and those market eggs, which are always rising. Now, when you compound, 20% of that deposit or compound will be added to market eggs. So what's the difference between, if you compound 4 times a day for 6 days, what's the difference between that and doing a withdrawal? Eventually they're going to work out to be about the same thing. So a lot of people's reasoning behind this is, hey, why don't you just take profit while that balance is growing higher? It's growing up faster than you're making those market eggs. So the earlier would be the best to take all the profits and just keep taking. The problem with that is, let me talk about this. This was also addressed in other videos, and other people have talked about this. They're like, well, then it's just a big Ponzi scheme. Well, everything is just a big Ponzi scheme. You got nodes that are nodes as a service. You've got the drip network. You've got all these things. They are all Ponzi schemes. You've got in the U.S. Social Security, which is a Ponzi scheme. You've got small businesses, which are Ponzi schemes. Basically, investment comes in, and those people that invest require something, goods or service coming back. Goods, services, profit, whatever it is, coming back. So as a business owner, if I'm running a business and my deposits, the money coming in, my income coming in, is greater than my expenses going out or withdrawals going out, I do well. As soon as those are reversed and my deposits in, the money coming in is less than the money going out, I lose money, and it eventually goes down. And when it gets to zero, you either need a loan or you fail. That's how all businesses work. It requires new investment. And it's the same thing with, node companies. It's the same thing with, everything. I mean, just every single thing that we're doing in finances requires more investment coming in than going out, because nobody can sustain something that is taking more than it's bringing in. It's just basic, simple math behind things. So some people are like, well, they're just running a big Ponzi. It's like, okay, then don't invest in Drip Network. Don't invest in Animal Farm, or I don't know what all the big ones are. Don't go dump into Strong Node. Don't do any of those things, because they're all a Ponzi scheme then. Get out of DeFi, because you're going to be sorely disappointed to find out that they're all Ponzi schemes. If you want to go by that definition. So, so let's talk about this. I'm like right in the middle of this topic. I know that the baked bean guys might be upset about this or whatever, but there's some things that need to be clarified about this. There's that, and then there's also the referral system. It is 12.5% of the referral deposit or compounded eggs. That's the truth behind it. There is no 12% of the 3%. I know it's in the FAQs of baked beans. I reviewed the code. Hayes Crypto's now reviewed the code. Several YouTubers have reviewed the code. And I've also done testing where I got 12.5% of a deposit from another wallet. I tested between two wallets. There is no 12% of 3%. I mean, that is a ridiculously low number for referral, and I don't know how many people would, really want people, refer people to this if they're going to get, what is that? That's less than 1% of somebody's deposit as a referral. I mean, that's insanely low. That's like, I don't know, 0.5% or something like that. So I just want to clarify those things up. You can look at the formula. It's on the Hayes Crypto site for Vineyard, and it talks about, the formula that's used. And you can read through this stuff. It's right there. They detailed everything out. And it's also, we're told, hey, after 48 hours or so, you should probably rebake. It also has a time limit. It tells you how many days, like 12 and a half days. So you have to remember, this is from Baked Beans is forked from another project, which has been going for more than a year. The mechanics behind it are pretty much identical. There's no, Baked Beans didn't come up with something new and innovative. It is a fork from something else, a very popular fork, but there's still a lot of money to be made in this. I'm not fudding this. I'm not saying whatever, I don't know. I hate when people are like, you're soft fudding or you're fudding this project. It's like, guys, if I come out and say, hey, you're not being correct, the return total is actually X, I'm not fudding something. I'm just telling you the truth behind it. I'm not saying it's a bad investment. Out of all the BNB, or actually all of the forks based on this, and BNB Miner, this is the one that I still am very bullish about. I love Baked Beans still. And I would still say, hey, it's probably worth still investing in. But I'm not just gonna everything's rainbows and butterflies when I can see, the facts in the contract. I can see the facts everywhere, that this is the way this thing works. Like I don't know. Even if the guys in the baked beans group say this is the way it works and he's wrong, like I don't know what to tell you, but like this is what I've reviewed in the code, what these Hayes guys have reviewed, what other YouTubers have reviewed. There's so many people that saying actually what they're saying is not quite correct, but this is how it's working. Now, all that being said, and saying, hey, they were wrong on their description of how this thing works, and also the referral system, blah, 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 I am still saying the best thing to do is the 6-to-1 reinvestment. And let me explain why. First, I want to talk about, the kind of the OG of the ROI dApps, Matic Staker. That thing went up, it got up to over, I think it was over 4.5 million USD worth in its contract balance. And when it got up there, as soon as it hit its peak, it kind of hung out there for a bit, and there's lots of new investment coming in. The new investment coming in, it got up to I think 13 million invested in that thing, but the balance still stayed around the same amount. So basically, with all that crazy new investment, millions and millions of dollars coming in, that balance could not grow anymore because the pressure coming out of that contract was so great that it could not offset that much coming out of the contract. Eventually it started coming down a little bit, that balance, and as soon as it started coming down a little bit, everybody got out and everybody sold, and it crashed. Days later it came down. That, however, will not happen with this. This is based on a very different system. It's not just basically you get in, you take everything out. That's not how this works. So yes, that being said, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened to the one this is forked off of. We have data. We can see what happened with the one that was rolling before. This is BNB Miner. This is the one that Baked Beans forked off of, and we can see exactly what happened to the balance and where it is now. So you can see it was rolling. It didn't get a lot of traction. So yeah, this is BNB Miner, by the way, and it started around August. Into August, September last year, it started rolling, and then all of a sudden it got very popular really quick, and it shot up within about 3 weeks. It went up and it hit, 7,100, almost 7,200 BNB, which is a pretty good amount. I mean, it's over 3 million USD worth. And then it got to the peak and it started dropping. It just went up and it went down. And these things, they don't just fall and go away to zero in a few days. These things take months. This thing has been dropping since October, the very end of October, and here we are now, and still got 1,200 BNB in its balance. These people are not making 6 or 8%; they're making probably 2 or 3%, which is still decent. I'll take 2 or 3% a week. I mean, that's fine with me. So that being said, guys, what's going to happen to baked beans? And that's the thing, is like, what's going to happen? It all depends on the community. Do I think it's at its peak right now? I don't think so. I think it's still got more to go. It's currently still growing. I still think it's a good investment. Is it going to be around forever, like the devs say? Probably not in its current form. But is it going to die in a month? No, it'll still be around in a month. A month, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be around 6 months from now. It'll have something in it. Let's talk about what I think could happen, and what I think should happen if people actually follow the rules. This is not following the rules. It goes up, and then that downward slope actually is pretty steep at the beginning before it tapers out. And they're all saying take profit right here, in these 2 or 3 weeks right here as it ramps up. What I'm saying is don't do that. Don't just take money every day. Don't try to drain the balance. Don't try to take all your money back as soon as possible. I did a little super cheesy drawing. Let me explain it. This red line, I made it to simulate similar to BNB Miner. It went up really quick. Everybody took profits in this little window right here, and then it dropped. And it was a steep drop at first, and then it kind of leveled out, and it's kind of level right now. The orange line is what I hope happens to baked beans, and it should happen if everybody follows the rules. Instead of taking lots of profit in these few weeks right at the beginning, we can go back here. This was about 2.5 weeks right here, this slope, and this is where everybody's saying take the money. Well, the problem with that is when you do that, it creates this sharp peak at the top, because eventually, even it's going to happen to baked beans. I mean, there's only so much BNB to go around in the DeFi space, and investment coming in. I mean, there's not an infinite amount of BNB that can be dumped into this thing. Eventually, I'm not going to say it's going to stop, but it will probably slow down. That being said, instead of doing this huge peak, which creates this giant sell-off right here, is all these people that were taking right here, they're still taking the same amount, and then it just drops quickly, because the amount of deposits coming in is less than the amount going out by that much more. So instead of doing this and peaking up here, if you can spread this whole thing out between these two over a longer period of time, then you create an uptrend. It comes up and up and up, and then it flattens out or even slightly increases, because as things are increasing, you're more likely to bring in new investment. So this orange line would represent what I hope happens to baked beans, is you take weekly profit all along this whole line of orange instead of this short little condensed area. When you do that, when it reaches the top, because we're going to hit a peak of, there's only so much investment that's going to keep rolling in, and marketing, eventually get to the point where it's not as productive, because you hit a certain cap. I mean, it happens with new businesses. It happens everywhere, where the big influx comes in and then it tapers off. As that tapers off, if we're not just slamming out a bunch of money out of withdrawals, then that can sustain for much longer. You create more of a flat top. It could decrease like this slowly, or it could slowly increase. It depends on what people do. Of course, those people that are compounding, I'm going to do 90 days or whatever, they're back here. They dump into it and wait 90 days. They might be 90 days back here where they're not making as much if it's dropping, or if other people are dumb, they're starting to take back here when they're not making as much. So take some profits, that's fine, but don't just keep withdrawing and withdrawing and withdrawing. Basically, those guys that are saying take that profit in that short condensed period, technically, according to the contract, they are correct. But for the longevity of the contract, to keep this thing sustainable and keep everybody making money for a longer period of time, they are incorrect. Baked Beans, their team, they're saying this thing will last forever and it will continue to go up, and the 6-to-1 will punish you severely. I'm saying they are incorrect, but what they are correct about is that 6-to-1 is sustainable for a longer term, for a longer period of time, for more people to get out with their profit. And because it's still on its uptrend, it's still worth investing in. That's what I feel. I mean, make your own financial decisions, make your own calls on this. This is totally up to you. I'm not providing financial advice. I'm just showing you the way that I see things. But I just see a lot of people out there with really fancy cameras making fancy videos and kind of really fudding this thing when they have no idea what they're talking about. But I also wanted to be very clear about how this thing works. You know, I think a lot of us were sold on something and basically said it's this huge complicated thing that nobody will ever understand, when it's not. It's not that, you know, severely complicated. There is an algorithm of how this thing works. It's not a secret. You know, yes, there's no price for beans. It's not a token or whatever. But there is a way that this thing works, and you can look at it and audit there. I mean, this is basically the formula here. You know, it's basically your user eggs divided by your user eggs plus market eggs times contract balance. So, yeah, as long as you're growing your eggs, your own, yeah, basically your eggs are the thing that's going to pay you back. And as long as you continue building that, so compounding, you will make more, but it's not a drastic difference. It's not going to drop you to 0.5 in 2 days if you withdraw 3 times or something. So just be aware of that, but don't just take a bunch out of it. I mean, it just kills it for everybody. Go ahead and use your own judgment on this, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of right in the middle of this. You know, people are messaging me, sending me these videos of these guys saying it's a scam. But I'm also, you know, active in the group on baked beans, and these guys are saying, you know, 12% of the 3%, and you're going to get, you know, hugely penalized if you withdraw too much. And I think both sides are just too extreme, and I think just stick with the 6-to-1. You know, as long as we keep bringing more deposits in and we're not just trashing the balance, it is sustainable for a long time. And hopefully, you know, as baked beans creates some more revenue streams, I really hope that they get laser focused on supporting this contract balance and not following all these other forks onto different chains and stuff, because I think this is like a huge success so far, and it would be even more successful if they can worry about propping up the, you know, keeping this balance going and growing instead of, you know, chasing these other chains. Yeah, anyway guys, that one, there's that. And then I also want to talk really quickly about where is it? Oh yeah, here it is. Let me drag this over. Now you're gonna probably like wonder, what the heck is this? It looks exactly the same, because it is. These guys launched this thing, did 1% dev fee. I don't know. This is probably one of the laziest forks I've ever seen, because they didn't even change the styling. They changed the logo, they changed this little phrase at the top. Everything else is the same except for they changed beans to cats. Yeah, just some text changes, and they added an FAQ button. Other than that, this page is identical to baked beans. Couldn't even change the color a little bit. And then I also reviewed the code behind Lucky Cat, and if anybody's worried about an audit or something, I wouldn't even worry about an audit with these guys. It's kind of pointless. So Lucky Cat is here on the left, Baked Beans is on the right. You scroll down, this is the only code change in the entire thing. And I copied this code right off their contract. So this is what's deployed on product, or on the blockchain right now on both of these. So yeah, the only thing they changed is the contract name, Lucky Cat, and the dev fee val. That's the only thing they changed in the entire contract. The rest of it is identical. So if you go in asking in the Lucky Cat group about a dev or something, if they do have a dev, I don't know if I would, this is not something that I would judge their development prowess off of, because it didn't take a lot to do. Honestly, it's just a straight replica. So anyway, guys, yeah, I'll leave a link to this if you want to use it. I'm still bullish on baked beans, still going up. It's really about the community. I don't know if I would listen to all those guys that are like, hey, take all your profit now. I don't think that's the right thing to do. You're killing the sustainability of it. But I also don't listen to the guys that say, bake 90 and take once, or 30 and once, or anything like that. Take profit as you go. As this thing grows and as it levels off, or even if it declines, take profit as you go. Do what you can to sustain the contract balance. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think about this. I know a lot of you have seen these other videos floating around YouTube. I don't know why, I really like the ones where they really jump into the code and discuss it and talk about it and analyze things. But the ones that just jump on and say beans are tokens and BCT is integrated with this way or that, and they have no clue what they're even talking about. Those ones just they hurt things for everybody, and because they have no idea what they're talking about. But yeah, don't get too entrenched into a camp. Don't become too tribal in these things. Yes, you want to sustain the balance because it's in your best interest, because you can make more money longer term than just doing the short-term gains on these. This is not like a traditional ROI DApp where it's just going to go up quick and then just shoot down really quick, and people are going to be wondering why there's no site or the balance is zero or whatever. But yeah, I'm still bullish on this. Again, this isn't financial advice. I'm not saying you should get into baked beans or Lucky Cat or anything else. But I'm just trying to provide information to you guys. You guys can make your own decisions. Anyway. Again, let me know what you think, and like the video if you like it. Hit subscribe if you want to hit subscribe. Hit the bell if you want to get new notifications of videos, all that YouTube-y stuff. Pretty sure everybody here knows what they're doing. So anyway, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.